Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. We did a show reacting to this conversation that took place on Gills Arena. And I said to myself, a topic like this even making it on the discussion board at Gills Arena devalues the show. There's certain things that you shouldn't be discussing on your channel. And whenever we're having a conversation about is SGA more skilled than Michael Jordan, you know you're not being serious, right? Especially given the fact that we can watch SGA play basketball every single night, and we've all seen Michael Jordan, number one, and number two, also because they can't even explain what they're saying. It's more skilled in what way? What's the thing that he's more skilled at? Oh, dribbling. Really? Well, Michael Jordan couldn't dribble the ball. Like, what are we talking about here, right? And Rasharman can't push back on that point. But the genesis of it all came from what Paul Piers said on the show. I don't know the podcast, don't care. Anyway, he went on there and started talking about SGA is more skilled than Michael Jordan. And many of us are like, this is what NBA media has come to. The most greatest player in the sport is now like, oh, he was just some dude. Oh, he's just some guy. You know, he's just some guy over there. He's just some guy, right? Well, apparently, one of Paul Pierce's former teammates, top 75 player, Kevin Garnett, heard the comments that these guys had to make. And Kevin Garnett went on the show that him and Paul Pierce do together. And Kevin Garnett wanted Paul Pierce to explain to him face to face what the hell he was talking about. And as he was talking, at one point, Kevin Garnett gets fed up and basically said, bro, you're a goofy. You're a goofy and you're over here saying dumb things to attract a younger audience, and you're making a damn fool out of yourself. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to play what KG had to say to Paul Pierce about this. I'm going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what he had to say here.
And your quote was that you thought Michael Jordan had a very limited bag. I would like you to expand on that.
Well, in today's...
You're talking about today's game?
In today's game.
Okay, so you analyze... Hold on, let me set it up. So you analyzing Michael Jordan's game in today's game.
Right.
Okay,
yeah.
Got you. Okay.
Not in
so
his,
that needs to be said. That needs to be said.
Yeah, so...
Got you.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of taken out.
But in the context. We just put it in. We put it in the ball now, okay?
Yeah,
so in today's game...
today's game, like, what's considered a bag is like... And it's like no real set definition of it, because you just look like... you look at guys, when you say, all right, who got a bag in the league, you instantly go to like Kyrie, James Harden. But these is guys who need multiple moves to get cracking. Like Jordan didn't need multiple moves. He just right by you. One dribble pull up, fade away. You know, for that era, that was great. Like now it's a one-on-one league to where it's like you really gotta like to get by your man on the switches and everything. Or if you're not 6'10" shooter, like Wemby, got a bag. It's crazy some of the moves he do. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it was meant. Like Jordan had a bag for his era. I was taking it into context for this era. I think when you look at guys like Tracy, Vince, Ray, Iverson, like dog, them guys would be unstoppable in this era. You know, they didn't settle for threes. They was getting 50, 60 points with like 2 threes.
And you think those guys you just named had a deeper bag than Mike?
Vince, I think, had a deeper bag than Mike, because he can do everything Mike can do, and his threes was more.
We're talking about Michael Jordan too.
Yeah,
right?
Michael Jordan, his bag was athletic bag. Like nobody had a better athletic bag. Like in the air, he did too many things.
The definition of bag to me is having a barrage of moves to get to the cup or score the ball, period. To say Michael Jordan has a limited bag, but he was arguably the best scorer in our history is what the definition of a bag then? And then if I'm being honest,
it's like so many different ways
to get this off, man. These niggas today don't even know how to score a move and then bring it back and remix it, and it's a bunch of that, bro. We talking about putting the ball in the bucket.
That's what they call a bag, though.
Bro, I'm talking about the essence of scoring the ball.
Yeah.
MJ, his bag was 1, 2, 3 pull up, 1 dribble pull up, getting by you dunking the ball, 3 ball, whatever the spin, post, however you want it, Lord. Like, man, y'all sound crazy on here, man.
I think a bag is based around your handles.
Man, what are you talking about?
That's what the internet feels like it is, and that's why I wanted you to set the criteria.
Listen, man,
I think a bag they say is
all
based
these
around
gotta beat them and then remix it, bring it back. To me, that's incompetence. Now you playing. That is a whole nother thing.
It's like based around how
people
you
who
get
know how to
yours off
score
with
the
your
ball,
handles.
score the ball. They don't play with food. Like if you can get to the cup and dunk the ball, you dunk it every time, right? So if you can, you do that. All right, cool. If he cuts you off, you can cross him over. Boom, right? A bag is being able to be in traffic and make a traffic decision, and boom, you make it right there. You know, I faced up. Boom, he went middle. I saw him middle. I gave it. So and then on top of it, Michael Jordan was one of the more aggressor offensive players. Oh man, can't nobody guard that. Hey, Mike would grab your face if you tried to jump before him, bro. This nigga would grab your arm. Like, man, listen, man. I'm sorry. I respect every era, and I'm going to keep respecting every era. Y'all need to go back and watch some of that young Mike Jordan. Y'all need to go watch that Mike Jordan who went up against Larry Bird. You know what I'm talking about? That went up against the Pistons. And with physical play, by the way. And was downhill. And when he needed a 3, he could hit a 3. And he hit game winners. And he came back from 15 down in the 4th. And yeah, man, what? And then he was a goon. He was a real nigga. Y'all got me up in here, boy. Y'all better put some respect on Mike's name. Boy, stop saying goofy. That's goofy as hell. Mike Jordan ain't got a bag, P? Man, stop, man.
No, nobody said he ain't had no bag.
Y'all said he had a limited bag.
Because he didn't need a bag. He was so he was
Definition
so
of bag.
athletic. He was
Definition
so
of bag.
athletic
Definition
and
of
so
bag.
much better that he could
Definition
just
of bag.
one dribble pull up on you.
Man. Definition of bag.
I think it has something to do with like you got to take 20 dribbles and get the moves off and score. That's what this era is. I can care less about a bag. I ain't saying not having a bag ain't good.
Man, you got to have a bag. If you scoring anything over 20,000, 30,000, bro, you got to have a bag. You understand? Because they going to put the best stopper on you.
Did Shaq have a bag?
Shaq had a bag? Shaq was winning all dunks. Shaq had a jump hook, a left.
Dream had a bag.
Fuck out of here. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Shaq dunked the ball majority of the time, but he had a jump hook. He had a left hand. He had a motherfucker, a fadeaway. What you talking about? Dream had move.
Could we establish if you're at the top of the scouting report and you're finding a way to score 25, 30
You got
night,
a bag.
you got a bag?
Absolutely. You got
I
to.
don't know. Well, we got to ask this new generation.
Okay.
Because the new generation defines it different.
The new generation.
I think he
is
got a
not
bag, but the
educated.
way they say it is
The
like
new
no
generation
bag.
not educated. Go do y'all education first.
That's why they come here.
I'm doing this
all
based
good.
off
That's what I'm
the new.
saying. I'm
This is
teaching the
all
new-
based off the new generation, by the way.
Okay. So more
know.
context that you base it off of what the narrative is.
You not spoke to
Yeah.
so many young people. You speaking for them.
No, I'm just going on what they say.
Fantastic. So you heard what he had to say. Excuse my energy if it's a bit low. Only slept for like 2 hours last night. I haven't been getting much sleep. But anyway, what are my thoughts about this? This is rage bait. You know, people accuse, DREAMERSPRO, you guys are, you made an audience out of hating on LeBron and da-da-da-da. Everybody can characterize us here. But what you're witnessing is a form of content, which is called rage bait. And what Paul Piers was doing was rage baiting. Number one. Number two, how many times do I talk about it on this channel? How many times have I said it in the past? I said, what's one of the issues that we're facing as a society? That the older men want to be young boys, right? They want to associate with the young boys and be a part of them. And as a result, you have Paul Piers saying stupid stuff like this. This is where we are. And what happened was Kevin Garnett reached a breaking point where he was like, okay, this is nonsense. Paul, this is nonsense. You sound crazy. These are goofy takes. Like, these are just goofy ass takes. Goofy, goofball takes. Like, what are we doing here? But this is NBA podcast for you. NBA player podcast for you. The majority of it is just a bunch of BS, man. The majority of it is just a bunch of BS. You have a few good ones. The rest of them are just dudes cutting on a mic. And because I played in the NBA, if I say any and everything, I don't even have to think about what I'm saying. People are going to find it interesting and people are going to watch me. No. Just because you play in the NBA does not mean that you can say anything and people are automatically going to agree with you. Case in point. Here you have another NBA player saying what a lot of fans said, which was, that was dumb as hell. We're in a bad place in media right now. And I'm beginning to believe that one of the worst things that happened to sports media was the advent of NBA player podcasts. Because I'm really beginning to believe that these guys are doing more harm than good. NBA players get the benefit of the doubt. People listen to them because they're NBA players, former NBA players. So they have that benefit of the doubt, right? But what this does is that it now creates a space where these guys can come out here and say some of the craziest things ever. As you guys know, Paul Piers recently came out and said that SGA is more skilled than Michael Jordan. Everyone has reacted to it, right? These are just troll comments. But apparently Kevin Garnett caught a whiff of what Paul had to say, and they went and did their show together. So Kevin Garnett directly confronted Paul about his comment. And he was trying to ask Paul to clarify what he means, please. Get specific. And in the midst of Paul Pierce making his argument, he then starts bringing up Tracy McGrady and a few other people. I think Allen Iverson, Ray Allen. And he said Vince Carter. And KG said, well, what are you trying to say here? Are you saying that Vince Carter is more skilled than Michael Jordan? Would you believe that Paul Pierce said, yes, I believe Vince Carter is more skilled than Michael Jordan. What we want to do is I want to play this exchange for you quickly. I want you guys to listen to it. And I'm going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to these guys here.
I think when you look at guys like Tracy, Vince, Ray, Iverson, like, dog, them guys would be unstoppable in this era. You know, they didn't settle for threes. They was getting 50, 60 points with like 2 threes.
And you think those guys you just named had a deeper bag than Mike?
Vince, I think, had a deeper bag than Mike because he can do everything Mike can do, and his threes was more.
We're talking about Michael Jordan, too.
Yeah,
right?
Michael Jordan, his bag was athletic bag. Like, nobody had a better athletic bag. Like, in the air, he did too many things.
So you heard what they had to say. This is bad. This is pretty bad. The man said MJ has more of an athletic bag. So what does Vince Carter have? Were they not calling him half man, half amazing, the human highlight? Like, isn't the lore of Vince Carter centered on his athleticism? Now, obviously, he was a scorer and all of that, but isn't that the main thing? Isn't Vince Carter referred to as the greatest dunker in NBA history? Wouldn't that mean that he's pretty athletic? Beyond that, what the talking about? What is Paul Pierce talking about? At no point in time, and shout out to Vince Carter, at no point in time, while all of us NBA fans watch Vince Carter, and we all watched him, when he's with the Raptors, when he's with the Nets, I forgot the other teams he played with. I think he played with the Mavs or whatever, but when he was with those teams, I don't even remember people talking about Vince Carter being the most skilled guy in the NBA. When we're talking about the most skilled players, he didn't come up in the conversation. Skilled, we were talking about guys like Kobe, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, a few other guys I can't think of right now, but Vince was never in that conversation. Vince was always like Tracy McGrady. Vince was in the conversation of like he's a gifted scorer, but the best dunker in the NBA. That was what we were talking about with Vince Carter. What is Paul Pierce talking about? Vince is more. He said Vince Carter can do everything, so Michael Jordan can't do everything. What? I don't think Paul Pierce is thinking about what he's saying before he says it. I think Paul is just talking. And I don't think Paul is aware of the reaction of what he's saying. Isn't it just recently that Steven Jackson called these guys a clown show? The problem is we need to have a body that curtails this nonsense. We need to have other NBA players start calling out this nonsense, because this is becoming a reflection on you guys as a group. This is goofy. These are like cornball basketball conversations, bro. Like, what's next? Like, what's next? Soulja Boy can rap better than Lil Wayne. Like, what's next, bro? Like, what are we doing? What's next? What's next? Vanilla Ice can rap better than Eminem. What's next? What's next? When will this cornball nonsense end, bro? I don't watch any NBA player podcast. I don't. I watch a little bit of Gills Arena here and there, depending on the topic. I may dabble once in a while in a Carmelo Anthony video, depending on what he's talking about. But a vast majority of it, I don't be checking for their podcasts like that, bro. Because you know it's inevitable that somebody's going to say some dumb shit. And here you have another instant of this. Vince Carter is more skilled than Michael Jordan. What Michael Jordan had was an athletic bag. But Vince Carter didn't have an athletic bag. It's a disgrace, but really no one should be surprised, man. You know what I mean? You really shouldn't be that surprised. This is what these guys have been reduced to. Just this hot take artist, rage bait artist. And I'm gonna leave it to the other people. You know, the Two Raws, the Sports and Fitness Rants. These are the guys to react to it. Man down, all of them. I want to hear what they have to say about this, because I don't have the energy. As I said, I'm tired as hell shooting these videos. I only got like 2 hours of sleep. I can barely stay awake doing this show as I'm looking at you right now. If I misspeak or have a misstep at certain points in the show, y'all are looking at somebody that slept for 2 hours. I'm exhausted, so just bear with me. But I said I got to talk about this. I never watch full podcast episodes, ever. I don't have the attention span. But yesterday something happened and I said to myself, ooh, I got to see this. What happened? So yesterday, Piers Morgan interviewed probably the most controversial figure in the United States right now, certainly political figure, in Nick Fuentes. And it was a 2-hour interview. And the headline of the interview said, "What a crock of bleep. Piers Morgan versus Nick Fuentes. Full interview." And in 22 hours, probably going to be 24 hours by the time you see this episode. In 22 hours, this interview has 2.2 million views. And the comments, it has 53,000 comments. 53. And I sat down and listened to this interview from beginning to like the 1 hour and 50-minute mark. And then today I finished off the last 10 minutes of it. Now, coming into this conversation, apparently Nick Fuentes has a lot of supporters. Apparently. You know, and these seem to be young men somehow, some way. Right? And I'm a big fan of anime. And there's a particular anime that I watched a bunch of times. I'm sure you guys have seen it too. It's called Death Note. And in Death Note, if anybody's seen it, I'll make the reference. After listening to Nick Fuentes and reading through the comments of people supporting him, I can now understand how people supported Kira in that damn show. Like, you think, oh, this is insane. No, these people exist. So the interview starts off. My first observations about Nick Fuentes, I haven't paid much attention to him, are he's a troll. And he has certain tells when he's talking that I know he's trolling people. He's also a rage baiter. He says and does things to rage bait. Like, especially if you're pressing him on an issue and he knows you got him, he'll start smiling. All right, he'll start smiling and making funny faces. If you really start getting in his ass, he'll start saying things like, "Oh my God, well, calm down." Like that. He's a troll, right? He may be serious, but he's a serious troll, right? So I'm listening to this guy, and as I'm listening to him, and they're having a back and forth, Piers Morgan starts off with talking about his upbringing. So as Nick is beginning to kind of explain how he was reared and all of that stuff, he then begins to talk about his father. And it gets into the part where his father made some racist comments about not going to certain restaurants to eat because there'll be blacks there. And they said a whole bunch of different things. Now, in my mind, as I was preparing this show, I would have said, okay, we'll play a little bit, then react, then play a little bit, then react. But I don't want to be stopping and going. I want you guys to listen to everything. Then when I talk, if I have to talk for 10, 15 minutes straight, I'll get all my thoughts out in one straight flow. We got a lot of different things we want to address in this exchange here. So what we want to do is I want you guys to get your popcorn ready. And I want you guys to listen to every second of some of these parts of the interview that we're going to be addressing today. Take a listen to Nick Fuentes versus Piers Morgan here.
My first obvious question is, were your parents immigrants to the United States, or were their parents, or were their grandparents? In other words, at some stage, I presume there were immigrants in your family who came to the US. Is that correct?
There were. I believe my mother was fourth generation and my father was third generation. So their ancestors came here on my mom's side in the 1860s, I believe. The first wave of Italian immigration. My father's ancestors, I think they came around the turn of the century in 1900.
So your view of immigration, and we'll get to the specifics about your views on immigration, are they not affected at all by the fact that if it wasn't for immigration, you wouldn't exist as an American?
Well, I would certainly exist, but like you said, maybe not as an American. Certainly that's influenced in some measure. But I think that the kind of immigration that we had for a long time in the country, it's different than the immigration that we have now. And let's just say for openers, it's different immigrants. They're coming from a different place with a different culture, a different religion. It's not the same as it was.
But you mentioned Mexico in that list, and your father is half Mexican. So
yeah.
I mean, by your criteria, part of the invasion would include your father, presumably, and his immediate descendants who came from Mexico.
Not really true, because when my father's ancestors came here, it was a small fraction of the total immigrants that came from Mexico. I don't believe that we should have zero immigrants forever, or even zero immigrants from non-white countries. But you have to draw the distinction. My father's father, he was here in the 40s and 50s. It was his parents, or I believe either his parents or grandparents, that came here even earlier. Up until 1965, 90% of the immigrants were coming from Europe. I have no problem with that. If we have 10% of them coming from Mexico or Latin America, maybe that's reasonable, but that's not what it is now. Now you've got 10 million illegals in 4 years under Joe Biden, and you got millions more legal immigrants from China, India, Venezuela, El Salvador. And it's so many with no break for assimilation, and they're all from non-white countries. It's transforming what America is. And again, that's the distinction. That's what makes it unacceptable.
I always believe everybody is a product of their environment. Right? I've interviewed thousands of people. Maybe 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people from all different walks of life. But the one common theme I would say is everyone's a product of their environment. And I was reading some stuff about you in the last few days. There was an episode of your podcast where you talked about your father, Bill Fuentes, and how he wouldn't take the family, including you, to certain restaurants because he believed they were associated with African Americans. We would be deciding where to go to eat, you said. What are we going to do for dinner tonight? It was a running joke. Me and my sister would say Applebee's, and my dad would say we would never eat at Applebee's. Not in a million years should you be caught dead, Fuentes said about Applebee's. Go to a different restaurant, a local restaurant. No Applebee's, no Red Lobster. That is commonly known as black fare. And you also shared another story about your family and restaurants. It said, before me and my sister were born, my family had a saying about Olive Garden that contains the N-word that we're not allowed to say. So my question, based on that anecdote that you say on your own podcast, is do you think you grew up in a racist environment, that your father was inherently racist, and that that thought process moved to you?
Well, I would say it's a new low. I've been attacked for being a racist many times, but to attack my father, to attack my parents based on anecdotes, I would say that's sort of a new low.
Hang on, it's your anecdote.
Yeah, but he's not here to defend himself.
You are.
And my parents are.
You told the story.
And I will. And I'll
I'm not trying to ambush you. As I
them.
said at the start, Nick, to be clear.
No, it's not an ambush.
Nick,
but
to be clear,
I think
I'm not
understands.
ambushing you. I'm literally reading an anecdote that you revealed on your podcast. It's you that's put it in the public domain.
I know.
I'm simply asking you whether my assessment of that, which is that your father didn't want to take you to certain restaurants because of what you refer to as, they were commonly known as black fare, whether that attitude to African Americans in that instance permeated to you. It's a reasonable question.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think everybody knows what that is, but I'll address it. I'll engage with it, and I'll defend my father from the charge of racism.
Sure.
No, my parents are not racist, and they've never been racist. I'll tell you about my parents. They used to have a school in Chicago in the South Loop where they instructed people on how to shoot firearms. It was a security school, and most of the clients were black. And I believe actually one of their clients was Larry Hoover's son at one point, sort of a funny story. And so most of their clients would come in from the south side of Chicago. My grandmother, she grew up in the projects in the city. And so my family being in Chicago, being ethnics, being Italian, Irish, Mexican, and the West Side on Taylor Street, all over the city. My family for many generations have lived near and around black people. And look, my views about black people and their views about black people are shaped with experiences.
When I read that anecdote, which just to remind you, it's not something I have put out there. You told this story, right? And you said that
you said this. We're looping. You said this already.
No, but you haven't really directly, I think, responded to it, which is whether your father would not take you to certain restaurant chains because he associated them with black Americans. Is that true?
No, well, see here, if you're in America, you would say that Olive Garden is not real Italian food. Applebee's, TGI Fridays, this stuff is a load of crap. My dad was just a food snob, but no, it's got nothing to do with that. My best friend in first grade was a black guy. We're not a racist family. So
okay, so when you told the story, I'm just curious. So when you told that anecdote, which clearly on the face of it is racist, right? You're basically saying your father made racist decisions about where you would go as a family to eat. Are you saying, well, I'm just going to ask you a question. Are you saying that when you told that story, you didn't mean to infer that he was racist? And do you understand why when somebody like me reads that anecdote for the first time, as I did this week, I reach a different conclusion?
Well, I understand what you're doing, which is a sort of making of a murderer. How did he become racist? Well, his father didn't eat an Olive Garden because he said that's not real Italian food. Hang on, can I? What's with the interruptions? Can I explain?
I'm literally reminding you of something you said on your show, which led me to conclude a certain thing. If I'm wrong, tell me.
Yeah, it was said in jest as a humorous anecdote, and now you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is his parents are racist. He comes from a long line of racists. And I think everybody knows my parents are boomers. Mm-hmm. And these people come, well, you're a boomer, I guess, too, in a way, 60. Right? You were born in
60.
19? Yeah. So you're a boomer also. Or maybe you're a Gen Xer. I suppose it's sort of on the cusp. But it's a humorous anecdote. These are kind of the attitudes of baby boomers in society. But you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is you're a product of your environment. Your dad's racist because of this joke. Now you're a racist. And I don't think that's a fair characterization.
Okay. People can make their own minds up. They can go back and listen to you say it. I mean, the beauty of what I'm going to talk to you about in this interview is that almost all of it is just going to be reminding you what you have said and asking you what you meant. Your position about that story is that it was a joke, okay? I want to come to something else you said. This is where you talk about Jews, women, and blacks. Let's just take a listen.
They're always coming up with, no, it's not the Jews. No, it's not women. No, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it isn't at all. Jews are running society. Women need to shut the up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. And we would live in paradise. It's that simple.
Okay. Would you like to clarify what you meant there?
That's all true. That's 100% true. Everything I said in that clip is true.
Including that blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part.
Yeah. Yes.
But all of them?
No, for the most part.
What does the most part mean? What percentage of American blacks would you like to see in prison?
Whatever the percentages of the murderers. I think it's 1 in 20 black men will commit a murder in their lifetime. So maybe let's say that, 5%.
Oh, so you're talking about black people who murder people?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But you didn't say that.
That's
you just said
problem.
blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. You didn't clarify that you were talking about black murderers.
Right. No, you're right. That's a good addition to that.
You've also said you don't want to live near black people. Let's take a listen to this clip.
I'm a new generation of white person. I'm not living around blacks. Sorry. You know, I want white kids, and I don't want my white kids bringing home black people to marry. It's racial for me. And call me racist. Oh, very Christian of you. I don't give a fuck.
I mean, it couldn't be clearer, really, unless you want to say that's another of your jokes. But you're basically saying, yeah, I'm a racist, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
You're fine with saying you're a racist?
Totally. I think everybody's racist. I think everybody, if we're being honest, is racist. I think everybody, the only people that aren't racist or pretend not to be are white people to their detriment. Everybody else is racist.
But earlier in the interview, you got aggrieved at the idea that your father was a racist. You wanted to make emphatically sure.
Yeah, because my father's...
He's not.
Because my father doesn't share my same views on that.
So he's the exception to the everyone's a racist.
Well, everybody's a little bit racist. You're right. So maybe everybody... The difference is you're attacking my father. You know, he could get fired from his job.
I'm not attacking your father.
You are.
No, I'm not. I don't know your father. And to be clear, I have no knowledge about him at all
Well, then let's leave him out of it. Let's leave him out of it if you don't know him.
Hang on, Nick. You put that story into the public domain on your show. I'm simply reminding you of what you told everybody, millions of people, about your father. If you now want to retract it, fine. If you want to say it was a joke, which is what your position was earlier, fine. But I'm allowed to put to you things you've said publicly. That's not unfair. That's not me targeting your father. You put that story about him out there.
You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing.
I'm asking you about a pretty shocking anecdote, which to me looked like you were saying your father made decisions about where you as a family would eat based on skin color of people who worked at these places. If you say, or use them, if you say that is not what you meant, that's fine. You can respond any way you like. But the idea I can't ask you about it without you saying I'm attacking your father is ridiculous.
Excellent. So you heard the exchange. Let me give you guys my thoughts. Nick Fuentes is not a serious person. And I got to say, the people that follow him, you guys don't seem to be very serious. The guy openly admitted that he is a racist. He then later on said, everyone has a bit of racism in them. But then said, his father is not racist. Even Piers Morgan brought up the point, so wait, everybody else is racist, but your father's not racist. I'm confused. How does that work? And he goes, oh yeah, maybe he may be a little bit racist. That's the first part. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. The second part is he begins to get offended. And you can see a touch of nerve because he was like, you're talking about my dad. Why are you talking about my dad? That's probably the one time I saw him flustered in that interview. You're talking about my dad. And I'm thinking what you're doing is an attack on my dad. What you were witnessing was he was being emotional because his words hit home. You were now talking about something that hit home. But the irony in all of that is on a daily basis, he espouses views that offend parents, kids, brothers, sisters on a daily basis. And he just sits up there and chuckles like a crazed hyena. To him is all jokes. And then the part about what Piers Morgan said, he wasn't even trying to crack a joke. He wasn't even trying to crack. He was just asking them some simple questions. So when it comes to your father, oh my God, Piers, this is personal. But with everybody else, oh, it's just a joke, or I don't care. Right? So the guy that acts like he doesn't have feelings has feelings, except for only people that are close to him, which is a sociopath. Right? A person that can't function properly in public because they can't put themselves in the shoes of other people, like saying stupid things, attacking people, and wondering what it would feel like doing that to that party, and henceforth not behaving that way. Nick Fuentes cannot do that. He then, because I got a whole bunch of different parts I want to touch on, later on in the interview, he started talking about women. Oh my God. I can just imagine the insecure men that just probably love that part. Yeah, man, you go ahead, Nick. Tell them. Let's put these women in their place. Women that they don't even meet. Women that don't even speak to them. You're trying to put women in their place. They don't even interact with you. They don't even interact with you. So how is the behavior, what women are doing, affecting you? You don't even interact with them. They're annoying. How did they annoy you? You don't date women. He himself said he's never had sex. So what is this annoyance that you're feeling about women? You don't date them. You're not in a relationship with them. So what are you talking about? Unless you're giving third-party accounts here. But then he said a few things about women that really shocked me. First thing he said was, he doesn't believe women should have the right to vote. He doesn't believe women should have the right to vote. Is this the world we're living in? He then later on went to say, oh, I mean, women are not even that attractive. What? Women are not really that attractive? What are you talking about? Women are not really that attractive. I've never heard a straight man say that ever anywhere at all. There's no straight man on earth that has ever said that. That women are not really that attractive. They have never said it. Nick, you got something to tell us? Now, Piers Morgan tried to probe a little bit and ask him some questions about that, and he chose to dodge. Then he got to the part which was one of the three pillars of Piers Morgan's conversation. First, we were talking about blacks, then Jews, and then women, and then later on they spoke about Charlie Kirk or whatever, but those are the three main pillars. He spoke about blacks. And he said, you heard it in the sound, that blacks need to be put in prison. Then later on, Piers Morgan said to him about that. So they commit the most crimes. So then Piers said, but wait a minute. So you're talking about the blacks that commit crime should be in prison, or all blacks? He said, no, the blacks that commit crime. He said, so why didn't you say that in the beginning? Why did you just make it a blanket statement and say blacks? And then he started catching it. And as he was talking, he's now Nick Fuentes feels like he's cooking. He feels like he's cooking, and some racists that were watching him like, go, white man, go. Show them your intellect. They thought he was cooking. He was cooking a pot of dead rats. He was doing nothing. He couldn't even turn on the stove. He thought that he was trying to make some point about, statistically they say, blacks do this, and therefore black men or women, whoever, black people are more violent, and and they got to a part where they spoke about who commits crimes. And he said, whites commit, what do you say? Whites commit something to the effect of like public crime, social violence. That's what he said. Whites commit social violence, like mass shootings, etc. Whereas black people, they do more gang violence. And I'm sure the racists And of course, the Cartier twins or families or whatever the hell you call those dudes, all of these guys that love to just, maybe Stephen A. Smith was loving it too. He probably beating his meat watching that particular segment. Who knows? They were like, oh man, this guy, he's right. You know, he's right. Charles, when Nick is right, he's right. These blacks and the gangs, he's right. Blacks are just violent people. They're murderers. They love violence and they love gangs. It's just a black thing. So silly me, with my black ass here, thinking with my black brain, according to Nick, that probably doesn't have much brain cells in it. I said, well, let me use my little black intellect here and try to dissect what he's saying logically. This fool is saying that black people are more prone to commit crime, which would mean the inverse is what? White people are less prone, right? So then I did some quick research. Silly me. I said, let's look at some of the biggest gangs in America. Let's see all of the black gangs. And what you know, they're gangs broken down by various groups, racial groups. The African American, some of the gangs, Black Mafia Family, the Hoovers, Sex, Money, Murder, Pyru, Crenshaw Mafia, the Bloods and the Crips, to make it, you know, the black gangster disciples, all of them, right? Then they got the Caribbean gangs like Jamaica Posse, Shower Posse, Zoe Pound, Blood, whatever. Then what do I see? The Caucasian gangs. Huh, who would have thunk? According to Nick, whites don't even commit gang violence. Let's read through some of the gangs that we got here. The 311 Boys, the American Front, Aryan Nation, Aryan Republican Army, Chicago Gaylords, Combat 18, Dead Man Incorporated, Dixie Mafia, Friends Stand United, Hammerskins, Imperial Clans of America, Keystone State Skins, Ku Klux Klan, The Order, the Peckerwood, which has so many different subgroups, People's Nation, Popes, Simon City Royals, State Line Mob, Volks Front, White Aryan Resistance. And then it goes down to the other groups. So I said, oh, wait up. But wait, Nick, you just sat up there and said that blacks are synonymous with gang violence. How come your research only stops with blacks? I know why. Because you said you're a racist. So a person that already has a skewed vision towards blacks and looks at them through a racist prism, you are expecting this guy to be the truth teller of blacks, and you leaving it up to the Cartier boys and all of these other fools out there to back them up and make them feel like, oh, he's right because it came out of a white mouth, therefore he's right. But let's delve a little deeper into Nick Fuentes. Because as I was listening to that interview, he said, and Piers brought this up, that he's an ethnic. Never heard it before until that time. An ethnic is essentially somebody that has multiple ethnic backgrounds. From what I was able to glean, the ones I got Mexican, I got Italian, and then I missed the other ones, right? I wonder, given the fact that Nick Fuentes is 25% Mexican, I believe his father's Mexican, I wonder if they have any gangs in Mexico. You know, from Nick Fuentes' side of the woods. So I just did a little quick Google search. And let me, and I had to, like, what are the gangs in Mexico? Turns out, you got the 14K Triad, 18th Street Gang, Barrio Azteca, Cabaraca Cartel, Cartel del, I can't pronounce some of these words, Cartel del Norceta, Gulf Cartel, and it just goes on, Hell's Angels, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. So, Nick, these black people that you say are just predisposed to violence and they're the perpetrators of gang activity, it looks like in Mexico they got gangs there too. But hold up. You also mentioned you're Italian. I wonder if there are any Italian gangs out there in Italy. Oh, what do you know? With a little bit of research, you got the Indregheta, you got the Camorra in Campania. The first one I said is in Calabria. Then you got the Cosa Nostra, who's in Sicily. Then you got the Sarca Corna Unita in Apulia. Then you got Societa Foyania. I hope I got that right. I just listed to you a whole bunch of major crime organizations. That's in Italy. But according to Nick Fuentes, he would have you dumb MFers that think he's saying something, believing, oh, blacks, they're just, these people are savages. Everywhere they go, there's violence. But he won't tell you, in all of these other parts of the world, where his lineage originates from, it's populated and flooded with gang activity. He won't bring any of that up. He won't. And you got all of these that run behind him and feel like he's saying something. Because he can articulate himself, because they impressed with people that can speak well, because most likely they're dumb. Most likely. Most likely. This guy is a flaming idiot. The reason I'm saying that is because his racism contributes to his short-sightedness. He's myopic. And whenever you're myopic, you can't look beyond your own view. You're not open-minded enough to say, okay, wait a minute, I believe this, but is there more to it? He can't do that. He can't do that. His whole thing is, oh, blacks, and then he has a nerve to, well, but black people are, who are these black people? I don't know them. I don't know these people. The only type of black person I think would adhere and support a guy like this are people that have extremely low self-esteem. Really. People that have extremely low self-esteem. Very low. I remember when I was in school in the Bronx in PS 37. And one of my teachers was white. And she told me, she said, you know, black people come from white people, right? You know that. You know that. I was in junior high. And I came on, I said to my mom, I said, my teacher told me this. Well, I'm going to repeat what my mom said. I'm going to repeat what my mom said. Now, if my mom was an ignorant black woman, she would have probably said, yeah, it's probably true. Or if she was a lazy black woman and wouldn't bother to do the research for her son, she would probably not even educate me on the issue. So I think it's these type of people, the blacks that love Nick Fuentes, he's not here to support you. He don't like you. He openly said, I'm a racist. He don't want to be around you. Even to the point where he's sitting up there talking about, I'm a Catholic, I'm a Christian, and all of this nonsense. His Catholicism and his Christianity cannot allow him to stop being a racist. To the point where he said, I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. And these guys use the cloak of Christianity to hide their nasty ways. But really, we have a problem. We have a serious problem for young men. We do. You have a guy this influential telling young men that women are not that attractive and they're annoying and this and this and this. And this is supposed to be building a functional society moving forward. This is supposed to be pushing society forward. This guy believes that he's bringing back all the races. Now, I've also noticed that they're almost trying to make it seem like it's cool to be a racist. I'm a racist, so big, so what? I'm a racist. Like, I'm a less evolved human. Let me just say it loud and proud. Because I believe if you're a racist, you haven't evolved. I believe you're still a primitive human being. Yes. That's my view on things. I believe if you're a racist, you're a primitive version of a human being. A part of you still hasn't evolved beyond your primitive form. I believe that. If you judge people solely based on the color of their skin, you're not a fully developed human being. I believe you're flawed. And I believe that there are people much better than you. I truly believe that. I truly, truly believe that. I truly believe that. I believe that these people are not evolved human beings. That somewhere something went wrong. That they're now stuck at the point of, he's this color, she's this color. she's a woman. I can't get beyond that. I'm stuck. You're stuck. You're stuck. Then he said everyone is racist. That's not true. That's not true. I'm not a racist towards nobody. No one. No one. There's a group that I know that doesn't like blacks, and I'm not talking about whites, that I do not tolerate any nonsense from. None whatsoever. And whenever they try to show themselves, I show them back quickly. I show them back quickly. Once I figured out that these people think I don't play with them. I don't play with them. But I'm not a racist. I don't walk around with these type of feelings in my heart toward other people. I don't do it. I gain nothing from it. It doesn't aid me in my quest to becoming a better person or more success. It doesn't help me. It limits me. It's a limiting way of being to be a racist. It really is. But these people don't even know it. So Nick Fuentes, after all, this is the guy. This is the guy going out there saying all kind of inflammatory things about people. Then the minute they bring up his father, he want to sit up there and cry like a little. He wants to cry like a little. Oh, you're going to get my dad fired. Then stop saying stupid Nick. Catch you on the next show. And whoever this offends, that's your bloody business. If you feel like you're Nick Fuentes' disciple, go after him. I'm sure he'd be dropping some carrots on the road for you less evolved beings to follow behind him. You know, because y'all probably his sheep. So he'll drop some carrots and maybe some tomatoes on the floor while you guys follow him.